Hello everyone, welcome to my new channel. Today I'm playing modded Kerbal space program, the start of my modded Forever Save, which I plan to keep going as far as I can until either I or everyone on YouTube gets bored of me. I have a lot of mods installed and right now I'm just demonstrating how good I am of a Kerbal space program player by demonstrating the incorrect usage of the staging. Yeah, check your staging. I think it worked as a reminder for me for the rest of the episode though, because it didn't happen again. And why is it so laggy? Why? Great. Just great. Yeah, you can see just how good I am at the game, right? Anyway, that was embarrassing. Let's skip ahead to something else. On a side note, Askrad's music. This guy is a goat. He lets everyone just use his music as long as we provide a link back to where we got it from. So, link is in the description, definitely check him out. He's epic. I just unlocked some basic science stuff, and now I'm building what I think I call the Big Flea. Now, what on earth is that piece? I don't know what that is. Doesn't matter. Onwards. Big fuel tank, engine, not that engine. I've never used the Marlin engines. Which mod adds that? I don't know. But this rocket, it's simple. It's just supposed to get me into a suborbital hop. Also, I usually handle the contracts. I usually edit out me doing the contracts just because who wants to watch that? But I will show them from time to time. And yeah, that's about it I've got to say about this rocket. The Big Flea, I think I called it. Yeah, and now you can see me doing the staging properly for the very first time. Now, I do got to say one thing, I'm very sorry for a bit of the jankiness and sometimes the game audio being muted or weird skips. I had a lot of trouble with the video files from the recording. And I guess now let's transition to the launch. I'll edit out the loading screen for you guys. Now, I've got a bit more science to do on the launch pad. I won't do this very often, but right now I just need all the science I can. And let's launch in 3, 2, 1, 0, no launch? Okay, launch now. And we lift off. You'll notice me going into turning off the HUD quite often. I like to take a lot of screenshots and post them on the Kerbal Space Program Discord. You might be able to tell what I'm doing in future episodes by doing that. My Discord username is the same as my channel name, just exospace7. And, well, here we go. Not much to say. I do got to say though, I guess I do have something to say. The mods, the Black Rag's planetary volumetric clouds, they look epic. Go check him out too. But if you don't want to pay for his Patreon to get access to the clouds, just Eve is another decent mod you can use. And I guess onwards we go. This rocket is in 2 stages if you haven't been able to tell yet. I put a solid rocket booster on the 2nd stage for some reason. Yeah. Another thing, I'm not entirely sure why right now, but Kerbal Engineer Redux isn't showing up. I'll need to try and figure out if I haven't unlocked the tech for that yet or... Oh wait. Staging in 3, 2, 1 and staging. Off we go. Now here I was watching my apoapsis very carefully because this thing was going to places. And I don't want this to accidentally end up in orbit because no heat shield yet and I just burn up the capsule. And here's one of the moments where some awkwardness in my recording, it got completely unusable, so I had to skip ahead to the re-entry. I just did some basic science in orbit. So, re-entry. Thankfully, because I burnt a bit radial in, I don't have to deal with excessive re-entry heating, but I wish I had thought of putting a decoupler between the solid rocket booster and the capsule at least. That would have made it a lot easier. For now, I'm just spinning to avoid burning up the science experiments. I seem to have succeeded. And once again, we're gonna have an awkward transition. because the recording got unusable. Yeah, I'm still getting stuff sorted out. For the moment, I was using Windows Game Bar. I only realized later it was recording in 1080p. I'll tell you guys when I installed OBS and started recording in 4K. But wow, clouds, storm. I love how it is that you can always find at least one place where it's raining in with this volumetric clouds mod. Now, I know this episode is a bit long, but for my first episode, I do like to try to at least go to the Mun. It's just like, it's my way of doing this, you know? But from the second episode onwards, they should be somewhat shorter, maybe 20 minutes, and I might be able to post them twice a week. Now, as I descend, I guess I could say a bit about myself. So, I'm a Kerbal Space Program fan who hopes to one day become an astronaut. I severely doubt it'll ever happen, but the good thing is, even if I don't get there, it seems like almost every single thing that gives me a better shot of being an astronaut happens to align with my actual hobbies, like the stuff I like to do. So like scuba, planes, a whole lot of other stuff, physics and maths. They're just like my thing. Now back to the game. I'm in the research lab unlocking some stuff. I'm just looking all over the place because for some reason there are a few more pieces than normal. I guess I forgot to uninstall a few mods I had from my previous saves. But anyway, if you can, do what it says on the screen and hit subscribe. It means a lot for me. I really want to hit 1K subscribers one day. I really hope that this attempt at becoming a YouTuber will be successful. It's like I'd get to do what I love. Now, as for my inspiration for why I'm doing this, I was online one day a couple of months back doing my IGCSEs when I saw this YouTuber, Bogu, don't know how to say that, I'll put it up on screen. And he was doing a modded playthrough with the Kukablo mod. Now I do have Kukablo installed, and I'll also be installing Kerbal Star System soon. Now back to the contracts. Why are there so many? I must have installed... Yeah, I definitely forgot to uninstall a few mods. Like, why do I have the Grand Tour mods? That makes no sense at this point in the game. But I've taken a few contracts, and here I'm just modifying a capsule to hopefully achieve orbit. Now, what you're gonna see soon was me being properly insane. I did something, realized it wouldn't work, so I promptly did it 3 more times just to make sure that I was actually insane. I did sort it out at some point, and I promise I'm actually decent at this game. It's just I'm not used to 1.25 meter parts. It's just not my thing. I'm more of a 2.5 meter parts guy. I like the kind of mid-game of Kerbal Space Program, when you actually have the parts to do stuff, but you still have stuff to unlock. But this time I have a community tech tree, and I'll be continuing to install mods to extend the late game. So, I don't know, I might end up starting liking the end game more. Now, anyway, here I was just thinking about attaching a solid rocket booster to the bottom, except that the big one is too heavy, and the small ones just don't have the thrust weight ratios for it to be worth it. Like, it might get a few 100 meters above the ground, tops, but yeah, it's pointless. I'm just looking at those new engines I spotted, seeing if they'd be worth it. And here I was just looking at my thrust weight ratio. I'm not sure, did or did I not end up deciding to swap out the Pug for a better engine? adding more science, some other stuff. I'm looking at the basic sub-satellites. I'm gonna realize, by the way, it's gonna be about episode 3 until I realize what those things are. And apparently I did not swap out the pug. Now, anyway, some pre-launch science, turn on SAS. I've made the mistake of forgetting it off one time in my very first playthrough in Kerbal space program, and lift off. And off we go. And soon I'll find out that SAS is thoroughly insufficient for me to have any kind of control over this rocket. Yep. And not quite. And are you gonna flip or not? Yep, it's gonna flip. Spoiler alert, I did the exact same thing again. Yep, I'm an idiot. Although this time I got a bit further by following the program marker really carefully, and I did swap out the upper stage engine. But yeah, for some reason the upper stage is really unstable. Jeez, I wonder who put all that extra science I would never use on it. My original plan was to go for a polar orbit, but then I realized delta V constraints are a bit questionable, and here I'm just spinning out, and I decide to cut my losses, do a bit of science, and land with this thing to hopefully get some better aerodynamic parts, like, I don't know, some control fins. Yeah, I'm not that great at this game apparently. Here I've just found the IVA looks epic. And I didn't realize at the time it was fully interactable, and I dropped my stage. Thankfully it didn't matter, but still. Now I'm just unlocking basic stability, and here's my next attempt on it. I've added a few more little boosters. I've detached them, and I've forgotten that because I put the fins only on the, I think they're called dumpers, it would have like no stability. I proved my insanity by doing the exact same thing again. I thought perhaps if I just followed the program marker more carefully. Nope. I wonder what blew up, but still. Revert. Again. And again for some reason. Looking back, I look properly stupid. Maybe I should have just edited this out completely. Here I've finally decided to stop being insane. I've moved the fins on the central booster, and this has actually let me keep my control well enough, I think, to get to orbit. My timeline doesn't show me spinning out or reverting or anything, so I think this one's going for orbit. I'm sorry if you noticed a bit of jankiness in the way I edited this video. So I edited it a few days ago, and then I played a whole lot more Kerbal Space Program to get a backlog of video files. And only now I'm doing the voiceover. But yeah, the audio got unusable because I was trying to speed everything up. So instead, you get to listen to Askarad's music again. And off we go. A bit more science, and hopefully I get to orbit. One thing I don't like about Career is not having the ability to not having patched conics and maneuver nodes from the beginning. It's always a bit annoying. It's just something I don't like. Maybe if I ever restart this save or do another one, I'll take that out of the game. And here you get to enjoy a sunset in space with me. Now, I know this looks horrendous on YouTube. It's just gonna be like that, so I'm gonna edit out all of me being on the dark side of Kerbin. And later on, like episode 2, it's episode 2 when I was doing another landing, when I realized I had the Planet Shine installed. I remembered how to use it and I turned it on. Here I'm doing just a little EVA to grab the science because I'm mostly, what on earth? Jeb? I don't want to see that. Close your visor. I don't want to I don't want to see you tweaking out of existence, please. That's not my jam. You know, this is a YouTube video, Jeb. Come on, don't become invisible today. Yeah, back onto the ship. Just because it started spinning out and I wanted to turn SAS back on. So here I'm just grabbing the science, putting it inside the crew capsule, because I'm worried about the science experiments on the crew capsule itself burning up on re-entry. I've had that happen to me once. And obviously the Science Junior isn't coming back with me. That thing's definitely gonna turn into one giant firework. And transition in 3, 2, 1, and cheeky little EVA coming in into the atmosphere just to grab some high above Kerbin EVA science. Looking back, I'm not sure why I picked curvature for this. It's grating my eardrums off. Maybe it's just something to do with how I've got my audio set up for my voiceover. And we're now descending through the clouds. Here we go. Back on Kerbin's surface soon. I'm just checking what science I've grabbed for some reason, and I've jettisoned the heat shield to help me slow down. Now, as for why I'm moving a bit sideways, I have Kerbal Weather Project installed. What on earth? That is not Kerbal Weather Project. And something blew up. I think I checked it and it was just one of the science experiments. So I did lose a tiny bit of science, but it was probably irrelevant. Here I'm back in the tech tree, looking for what I should grab next. And preparing for my next mission. My next attempt is gonna be a Mun Flyby. Yeah. If you're wondering why I just sometimes freeze up and move my mouse around, it's because I was like planning what I'd say, not realizing it would look really stupid in when I was actually doing the voiceover. So yeah, as I said, this entire episode is gonna be a lot of jankiness. Probably will have figured it out by episode 2, hopefully. Now, anyway, on to other topics. Just yeah, you guys watching this, have you ever played Kerbal Space Program? Do you know how to play the game, or do you just like to watch it? Or are you watching it for a tutorial? Because I'm telling you right now, this is not a tutorial. This is me doing jankiness, stupid stuff all over the place. Here, what I was planning to do is to enter a lunar polar orbit, and that's why I took the stuff for ScanSat to hopefully get a map of the moon. But I end up not having the fuel to do a orbit, and anyway, I wouldn't have been able to stay there too long because yeah, I have a life support mod installed, USILS, alongside Modular Colonization System, or MKS. You'll see a lot more of them later on. And one of the things they do is they limit the amount of time I can leave a Kerbal in a capsule, because of, like, how to explain this, habitation. So with all normal capsules, a Kerbal will stay up there for 7 days without me worrying. And here I'm about to realize I'm about to hit the height limit on this thing and the weight limit. Yeah, starting off, it's always a bit tricky in Kerbal Space Program. Here I'm just upgrading the launch pad. Thought I'd show it just so you guys wouldn't have wondered how the maximum tolerances on vehicle weight suddenly increased. And now I'm starting to realize I'm gonna have funding problems. I thought initially, okay, I'll just convert my spare science into funding, but as it turns out, the conversion rate is really trash. So I'm gonna deal with it in another way. Slight reminder, 4K footage started a few minutes ago. I think, when I transitioned to designing this rocket. So if you were watching in 1080p because I told you, you can set it to 4K now. Now here I realized the conversion rate is truly trash, and then I ended up realizing the only thing would work would be a bailout grant. So yeah, I'm just gonna have the government bail me out. My reputation is gonna take a hit. Hopefully my stellar record at not killing Kerbals in general will save me. And now, because I have a bit more funding than I need, I'm gonna go back to having 4 boosters and prepare to launch this thing. Just checking my staging one last time, I caught a slight mistake because I increased the number of boosters and that messed up the staging. Checking my crew, I ended up deciding I would go with Bob Kerbin this time. I think I stuck a probe course somewhere to make sure this thing would remain controllable. And here we go. Launching! You might have seen Mark Watney as a Kerbal. So what happened is, a few days before I started recording this, I found the Martian fandom. Sorry, not fandom, fan fiction on AO3. Don't know why it took me so long to find that, because I was a big fan of The Martian ever since I saw the movie and then immediately read the book. It's what restarted my interest in space stuff. I had a period for a couple of years when I thought that the chance of me going to space would be like 0. Then I watched The Martian and it just came back why I used to love space. I would always watch what was going on. Try to get a picture of what was going on in orbit. Comment down below on what's your favorite space probe. Personally, I like Curiosity and Perseverance, but Opportunity, I don't know. Opportunity has an interesting story, if that makes any sense. And yeah, you know, this footage is supposed to be sped up. Why isn't... Oh, it is sped up. I should have sped it up more then. Now here I'm just trying to get myself into a reasonable orbit. And first stage, engine cutoff and separation. Dang. Kerbin looks beautiful. And here I'm just completing my circularization burn using a combination of that stage and now this stage. Now I did put landing gear on this thing, but I think I don't know how to explain this. Kerbal Space Program has these things called physicless parts. They're just parts with no mass, no drag, and if you make a craft out of only them, some true jankiness happens. But that explains how the landing gear. I did have an initial idea of maybe I'd have enough Delta V to land on the moon, and in that case I'd like to have the landing gear. Here I just discovered the press to talk button and I started messing around with the IVA a bit more. One day perhaps I'll do a IVA only episode, but for now I just need my third person view. Do the buttons work? And like the quick save buttons? Or the revert launch button? It kind of feels like breaking the fourth wall. You know, just having the button to teleport yourself back to the launch pads. But it seems to work. Now, back to not me toying around with all the buttons I could find. Here I'm just preparing to do... Yeah, I'm doing my... How do I call this? My Lunar insertion burn. Lunar? I'm gonna go with Lunar for now. and raising my apoapsis in the hopes of getting an encounter with the moon. Now, I don't have patch colonise yet, so the game won't tell me if I've actually got an encounter or not. It will only tell me once I enter the moon's sphere of influence or I miss it. Yeah. It's also not really telling me my apoapsis on the map view. I'm getting patch colonise before I try to land on the moon. It's decided I can't do this. And yeah, here we go. Accelerating. The moon, this is also why I didn't go to Minmus. The moon has quite a big sphere of influence and it's fairly close to Kerbin, so it's not that hard to hit an encounter with it. Here, so yeah, I just got my encounter. I'm transmitting what I can and keeping what would lead to a science loss if I tried to transmit it. Now, I definitely don't have enough fuel to land on the moon. It's 600 meters per second of delta V to land, another 600 to take off, and I'm not even in orbit. So I'm just gonna take my flyby, figure out my orbit afterwards, but eh. It looks cool up here, at least. For some reason I left science checks on, the alerts on. They pissed me off, so I've turned it off for a while now. Here I realize my periapsis is lethal and I might incinerate Bob. So now I'm trying to raise it and I mess it up. I should have throttled down the engine with the thrust limiter instead of just trying to do really slow burns, because I had to adjust it a few times. I prefer to go for a 30-kilometer periapsis when doing my re-entries from within Kerbin's sphere of influence. Any lower and sometimes the capsule will get really hot or even blow up some stuff. Any higher and I've had a capsule skip off the atmosphere and head back off into space by mistake once. And here on this save, I can't tolerate that, because if it skips off in space, yeah, usually my life support is stuck onto the service bay of whatever capsule I'm running. So, descending down to Kerbin. And I should get a re-entry soon. Yep, and another weird cut because my video got a bit unusable. Look, I'm sorry. It'll get fixed by episode 2. I figured it out in between episodes. In fact, I even had to re-record the entirety of episode 2 because I did something really wrong with OBS and I got a one frame per second video. It was telling me encoder overloaded and I didn't realize at the time that I had severely overloaded it and it was giving me like 1 frame per second of video. Here I've got my re-entry. Didn't speed it up for some reason, but Anyway, perhaps I should stop yapping about what's on screen. You guys can see. You guys have eyes. And I should find something else to yap about or actually do my editing job better. So, the parachutes have deployed. And once again I'm descending through the clouds of Kerbin. I must, from now on I've got to try and avoid doing too many launches in one episode, because otherwise I'm just going to be saying the same thing again and again. No, slight flaw in my plan of getting to the moon on my first episode. Which, talking about that, once I've splashed down, I'm gonna start building and preparing for my lunar mission. Splashdown. Sorry I went silent. There was actually nothing for me to say for the rest of the descent. Here I'm staring at the... I actually had... I think I must have left my computer or something because there was 10 minutes of me looking at that EVA repair kit. I'm just checking what I've got. I'm trying to find the fairings. I had this idea of trying to launch a satellite at the same time as my moon mission by kind of putting the satellite in between two stages. What I really should have done is just stick it on top because that would have been much easier. But I don't know. Mistakes were made. You'll see later. And transitioning to the craft being built. Yeah, I had to delete the stage of me building it. It was unusable. Again. What on earth do I say except comment on what's going on screen and so on? I guess I could talk about The Martian, but that's old. Well, I guess there's something I could talk about. Do you guys ever read a fan fiction, find out it's been unfinished, and then you realize it's unfinished for the last 7 years, and then the very first thing you want to do is, even though you know it'll be trash, you want to try and finish it yourself? Because I got that a short time ago. What can I say? I'm not gonna try and continue it because the writer of that fan fiction is much better than I'll ever be, most likely. But I'm thinking of trying to write my own The Martian fan fiction. My best shot right now is my best idea right now is that the MAV tipped and the astronauts had to survive until the RS-4 MAV fully refueled. Right now I'm in the stage of doing the math to see if it's even possible, and I'm telling you right now the book has a lot of mathematical inconsistencies. Like, come on Andy, where like the potato math is off depending on if you're in the second part of the book or not. Thanks to my new patch Konix, I'm just doing my moon insertion burn right now. And time to yap a bit more about The Martian because it's gonna take me some time to figure it out and get to the moon in one piece. I honestly have no idea what I was planning to say the entire time, so back to The Martian. His math seems to be off depending on if you're before the airlock exploded or after, and some things got changed, like the amount of time it takes for the MAV to refuel got changed from 24 months, mentioned in the beginning of the book, to 18 months sometime later when he was using the CO2 plant to compress CO2. And here I just realized I had to ditch my satellite because I didn't have enough fuel in the bottom stage to properly circularize, which is really unfortunate because this time I actually got a polar orbit, a decent one. I could have gotten quite a bit of science and preemptively mapped out the moon. I also have a couple of ScanSat contracts that helped me a lot with this. Now, what was I yapping about? Oh, yeah, The Martian. So his potato math, like how much Watney could grow in 120 something square meters, is off by a factor of 6 to 8, because when he did the math before the airlock exploded, he realized that in 400 sols he could grow like 900 sols-ish of food, while afterwards in 60 sols he grew enough potatoes to last to not quite last 900 sols or so, but quite a lot. Now I'm gonna have to base my math on the second potato calculation when the airlock exploded and he counted the plants and he had 1,800 something, because if I don't, there's absolutely no way for 6 astronauts to survive on Mars until the RS-4 MAV refuels. And also found a little plot hole in the book. He mentions that the RS-3 pre-supplies were heading to Mars while the RS-2 crew were heading back to Earth, which means obviously sorry, I meant it the other way around. The RS-4 pre-supplies were on their way to Mars, while the RS-3 pre-supplies, what am I talking about? The RS-3 pre-supplies were on their way to Mars, No. You get my point. The RS4 pre-supplies were there already when he was on Mars. And enough with me yapping, because Bob Kerbin is about to do his landing. But seriously though, why did Mark Watney not just steal from RS4, seeing that he took the MAV, which means the RS4 mission was scrubbed? He could have also just opened the food pre-supply, unless they sent it 2 years before RS4 instead of 4 years before. I don't know, in my book, the RS3 crew do have to steal from RS4, but at least they run a lot more science experiments than RS4 would have ever done. And here I'm just coming in for my landing. I'm looking at my Delta V numbers go down. I know I definitely don't have enough, but what I'm gonna do is at this point in time, I realize I can just do what Mark Watney did to the MAV and strip this thing of all non-essentials. I've had to do this once or twice before. It's always, it's interesting trying to guess what I can do without. Touchdown. Now, thanks to the Procore, this thing is gonna stay on its legs for quite a bit. But it does eventually flip over. And you'll see why I packed an antenna, is what I'm gonna say for now. Now, just a bit of science. I'm not speeding this footage up because, you know, first moon landing on a save, it's historic. You gotta show it in its full length, you know. A bit more science from EVA this time, and yeah, you can see parallax, scatter, looking great. Vote down below if I should turn on colliders or not. Now, I used to play with colliders on, but then I found out that Kerbal Space Program wheels literally act like squares. The point being, they don't work when it comes to climbing over stuff. Like, they just don't climb over things at all. It's really annoying, and I hope to one day find a mod that fixes that, but so far I've just had one person in Discord telling me if I'm stupid or something. I've forgotten what exactly he said, and that was a year ago, so I'm not really into searching it up. Here I'm just dropping my flag. This is the Apollo 2 mission. I've decided that I will name my Moon and Minmus missions Apollo. Probably have my Duna missions Ares. And I honestly have no idea if I'll ever name a mission Artemis. Now, here I was thinking of writing something truly stupid, but I ended up deciding I better not write personal things on a flag that's gonna be in a video. Now, about this ring, yeah, there are a few mods that I've got installed that I probably shouldn't. The ring goes away once I go back inside, and here I start destroying parts of my craft. You can already see that I got rid of quite a few of the landing gear. I did say there were physicless. I guess I forgot when I started destroying them. For the moment, the SAS wheel manages to keep this thing upright, but something janky happens in Kerbal Space Program every time a Kerbal gets inside, and yeah, and then the thing flips. Here I'm looking at the life support mini pack, and I decide maybe let's not delete that. I'm realizing now I forgot to destroy the light. I could have, but who cares. Now here's my solution after 20 minutes of trying to get this thing back upright on how to do my takeoff. I call it the antenna has two uses. The first user is to communicate with Kerbin, and the second use is a kickstand. I've done this thing way too many times, like it's just a thing. 1.25 meter parts craft have a tendency to flip when I'm controlling them for some reason. I guess I just don't have much experience with them because I usually push for 2.5 meter parts ASAP. But here I'm taking off, and looking at the Delta V numbers, I think you can also guess there's no way this thing's getting back to Kerbin in one piece. And here I've got 247 meters per second of Delta V. I don't have a maneuver nose yet, so I miscalculate my burn start time, and then accidentally quick save immediately after instead of before. So here I'm just trying to guess when I should start my burn. Now, while I shoved the capsule around with the EVA pack, which was my solution to force my Kerbin periapsis down. Honestly, I had no better way of doing it, and I really didn't want to activate cheats. Back to the Martian. Now, if you're wondering how on earth I'm gonna have 6 astronauts stay alive on Mars for about 300 to 400 souls until the RS4 MAV fuel plant fully refuels the thing. Well, here's my idea. First of all, NASA is immediately gonna know that they're alive because the MAV taped. It probably sent a telemetry update back to Earth when the tilt started getting outside of parameters. In fact, I was probably doing that 24/7. But point being, NASA knows they're there, so they aim all the satellites to the RS3 location, and so they also notice when they start writing in Morse code requesting NASA to land the RS4 pre-supplies at RS3. And my idea is RS4 was based around a really efficient Hochmann transfer window, so they sent a bit more than they usually did, like slightly bigger rover batteries, more supplies, and the idea being it would have been a longer mission, like, I don't know, 45 souls, 60 souls. I haven't done the math yet and decided yet, but it's probably gonna be mentioned in chapter 1. And the idea is, once they get the supplies, they pack up everything, and by everything I mean including the hab. They just put it on the backside of a rover, which they removed the pressure cabin from because it got wrecked in the storm, and then the entire crew drives to RS4. The point being, once they arrive, they can set up 2 different habs, and it seems like I've yapped over me doing the re-entry, but you guys have seen plenty of re-entries already. Still, comment down below if you want me to continue updating you guys on my fanfiction progress, maybe even put the link down below to it. On one condition: I'm fine with comments, but no hate comments. And I'm done with the science, and that's it, I guess. Goodbye, people. Thank you for watching, and see you again next episode, which might just release in a few days because honestly I have a backlog of Kerbal Space Program files to edit. See you in space.